Hello everybody, welcome to my presentation on React, a JavaScript library for building user interfaces. I want to preface this presentation with the fact that this is not an all-inclusive view of React. I am going to skip over a lot of the setup and everything like that. It's just going to be a quick kind of demo of what React can do, hopefully to get you guys excited and get you interested in it so that you can do a deeper dive yourself. So what exactly is React? React uses a declarative syntax called JSX. JSX is a markup similar to HTML that transpiles to JavaScript and then ultimately is rendered as HTML. So this is a little bit confusing, but this first line of code here is JSX. It looks exactly like HTML. That gets transpiled. Transpiled just means to switch from one syntax to another to this JavaScript. And then this JavaScript is very similar to what we talked about with our Book of Mormon assignment the other week when we created elements with JavaScript, right? So this here is creating a span with child text hello world, okay? And then ultimately it gets rendered as a span with hello world. It looks just like it did before. So are you confused? Hopefully so, because that is really confusing seeing it like that. So we are going to follow the wise words of Linus, which once said, "Talk is cheap, show me the code." And we're going to look at some code that I have prepared here. This is what we're going to do is we're going to rebuild the Book of Mormon assignment with React. And I did some of this previously because I actually recorded this presentation before this, and it was 40 minutes. And so I did a bunch of stuff ahead of time to hopefully trim it down. And so you'll see here, this is an unstyled version of our Book of Mormon app. It doesn't do anything, and that's okay. We're going to kind of build that. Now what this looks like, this is a React app, okay? And it looks like this. Now, again, there's a lot to how this works and everything. I'm going to try not to talk too much about that because I don't want you to see her for 40 minutes. So we're going to wire this up, and I'm just going to kind of show how you do things in React. So you'll see we have this input and this button. Okay. In React, everything is a component, and this app here is our component. And we're going to do a couple things. So first of all, we need a state. The state is going to hold our chapters of the Book of Mormon that we like in our list. So we're going to do that by getting it like this. Set chapters equals UseState. Okay, so the UseState hook is creates two things really. It creates a state, and this can be called whatever you want. We're calling it chapters. It's going to be an array that holds our chapters, and then also gives you a setter function, which we called set chapters. And again, you can call this whatever you want. And then we instantiate it. You instantiate your initial state by putting it in the passing it to the use state. And so we're going to instantiate it as a empty array. And then after that, we also need a ref. Now a ref is just a reference to a DOM element. React uses something called a shadow DOM, and it's just a JavaScript representation of what's in the DOM. Okay, and that allows it to be really fast and do updates and stuff really quick. So you'll notice that I don't have any IDs or I don't have any CSS classes here because that's a whole nother 40-minute presentation. But for this, we're not going to use IDs because we can reference these things kind of directly because this is all JavaScript, right? This file's name is app.js, okay? And so to do that, to get this access to this input, we're going to put an attribute on this called ref, and we're just going to pass it this input ref. I should mention the React docs are amazing, and all of this is in there, very easy to read and stuff. But again, trying to keep this as short as possible. So now we have a reference to that input, and we're going to need that, right? Because when we add this chapter, we want to get the value of that input. And so let's do that. And so the way that we do that is we do onClick, right? We're kind of familiar with that. And we're gonna create a function called HandleClick, okay? And you'll notice that this is a little bit different. The curly braces kind of reference variables, and so in this case a function, and so we don't pass it as a string like we do in typical HTML. And then we're not going to we're not going to call the function or use this call function syntax that we do in HTML either. We're just going to pass the function to this. So now the function's not created. Let's quickly create that. Function HandleClick. And we're going to do a couple things here. So we want to get the chapter. Okay, we want to get what's in the text box. So we're going to do const chapter equals, okay. Now this is where it gets cool. Input dot current dot value. Okay, we don't have to use query selector or get element by ID or anything like that. We can just directly access the input value here. Okay. Now just to show you that works, let's quickly just do this. So let's look at our code. Sorry, that should be input ref, right? Okay, when we do this, let's just do 3 Nephi 11. I click add chapter 3 Nephi 11, right? So it's going to this click, it's grabbing that value, and then it's putting it in here. Okay, great. So now what we want to do is we want to add that to our state, which is up here on line 4. Remember, our state is a list of chapters. So what we're going to do is we're going to use that setter function, set chapters, okay? And that's a function that takes a callback, or you can pass a callback in as a parameter, okay? And so what we're going to do is we're going to do, and we get the old state as the first parameter, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to return a new state, okay? And we're going to say const new state equals, and we need a whole new array. React needs a whole new array to tell it to re-render. So we're going to just do a little bit of fancy destructuring, and we're going to get the old state, and then we're going to add the chapter to it, okay? And then all we have to do is return the new state, okay? And let's see what happens. So we just go in here, 3 Nephi. I don't have to refresh there. I just don't want to confuse anybody. Okay, well, we don't see anything. Well, every time the state changes, a re-render happens. So we can put a debug here, and chapters, remember that's our state, and we can see that. So if we go here, we see 3 Nephi 11, 3 Nephi 11. Let's add Alma 5. 3 Nephi 11, Alma 5. Okay, great. So now how do we render those in our list? So we have this list down here, and it needs some list items. So the way that we do this is we give it some children, and we can just write JavaScript right in here with these curly braces. Remember, you can put variables in curly braces, and in our case, we want an array of list items. And so what we can do here is do chapters, which is just an array of strings, and let's map it. Okay, and we're going to take the chapter, and we're also going to get the index, and I'll show you why in a second. And we are going to map it. And what we're going to return here is a list item. And we're going to use a key, and we're just going to use the index for key. That's a way that React keeps things really fast. And then we're just going to put the chapter here. Okay. And when we do that, look, we have a list here. So if I do first Nephi 8, boom, it's there. Okay. So that's really a quick run through of React. We could do cool things like local storage, add item. Thanks to Shayla, we know how to do this. Let's do chapters. And then I'm just going to serialize this using JSON stringify, and let's just stringify the new state. Okay. And then if we go down here and we add Moroni 7, dang it. It's not add. Shayla's presentation was great and I just missed it. It's setItem. So let's just clear those out. So let's do Moroni 7. Boom, Moroni 7. If we go look in our local storage, Moroni 7. So now, how do we persist that? If I refresh, it's not there anymore. Well, remember, we can instantiate the state to be anything. Right now it's an empty array. Let's instantiate that to be, now this is not the best way to do this, but we're just going to do it this way for demonstration. So JSON parse local storage get item chapters. Okay, and I need one more. Okay, and when we do that, boom, it's persisting now. So if we do 3 Nephi 11, boom, it's there, and it does that. So that's this is all amazing because of React. We can add plain JavaScript stuff here. We can handle clicks. We can do just amazing stuff. We can style things, which I'm not going to get into. I'm done now, but everything here in React is it's a great place to be. So please look into it. Hopefully this made you a little bit exciting or gave you kind of a little bit of an idea of what you can do with it. I love it, and so hopefully you do too after you kind of dive in. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. Thank you for watching. Good night.